In this video, I would like to talk about a theory that I find interesting and at least plausible, although I certainly wouldn't say that I definitely think it's true. In fact, I'm not sure that it would be possible to ever prove that it was true or to disprove it. The theory is that J.R.R. Tolkien, when he was writing Lord of the Rings, was unconsciously influenced by Ethiopia. And it has to be unconsciously because Tolkien was asked about the similarity between a couple of the place names in Lord of the Rings and a couple of the real place names in Ethiopia. And he said that it was just a coincidence, which of course is the biggest piece of evidence against this theory. The idea isn't that he took a particular bit of history. The historical parallels are not from a single period in Ethiopian history, but from sort of several different periods. So the idea is that if any of this is true at all, he would have read this stuff and sort of combined it in a new way with elements that he already had come up with to make the plot. It's not a matter of saying that Lord of the Rings is just Ethiopian history with the names changed by any means. Ethiopia, or Abyssinia as outsiders used to often call it, was and still is a largely Christian country. It became officially Christian in the 4th century, which is roughly the same time that the Roman Empire became officially Christian. And it was part of Christendom until the rise of Islam, when it was cut off, in particular by the conquest of Egypt, which was in about 640. It became prominent in European minds in the 1930s because Italy invaded it. National Geographic ran 3 articles on the country. The Emperor Haile Selassie was Times Man of the Year in 1936. In 1936, the English writer Evelyn Waugh published an account of his travels in the country as a journalist, and in 1938 he published a novel based on his experiences. And this is the time when, so the theory goes, Tolkien would have become aware of Ethiopia and unconsciously influenced by the stories about it. The person who came up with this theory, it isn't an original theory of mine, Michael Mewling, wrote a book about it. I will give the details of that book and link to it in the description. The book is somewhat repetitive, and I think some of the parallels that he draws are reaching a bit, so I'm not going to go through every single piece of evidence that he cites in the book. I'm just going to go through what seemed to me to be the more striking ones. Firstly, there's quite a few names that are similar. Gondor is one of the good countries in Lord of the Rings. Gondar is a major city in Ethiopia. The Dark Tower of Barad-dûr is one of the major locations in Lord of the Rings. Bahia Dar is one of the towns in Ethiopia in reality. Rohan is another one of the good countries in Lord of the Rings. Roha, that is R-O-H-A, is the ancient name of another Ethiopian city. And finally, Harar is another city, that's H-A-R-A-R, and that is very similar to Harad, which is a country that doesn't play a direct role in Lord of the Rings, in that none of the events of the book take place in Harad, but Harad is said to be the origin of a lot of the humans who, because their kingdom has been corrupted by Sauron, fight for him. If it was just similar names, that would be interesting, but it probably wouldn't be enough of a basis for a theory. But there are actually other parallels. Most notably, Harar was an Islamic city in a particular period, and there was a war between the Muslims of Harar and the Christians of Gondar and Roha, although Roha had a different name by then. Obviously, Tolkien probably would have had the Christians as the good guys, and so it does seem reasonably plausible. Some of the other parallels are between the royal line of Gondor and the royal line of Abyssinia. The first king of Gondor had a choice between 2 races or cultures. He was given the choice to live as an elf or as a man, and he was the descendant of someone who is famous for killing a dragon. The mythical first king of Ethiopia was given the choice of living with his father, who is King Solomon, or returning to Ethiopia with his mother, which he chose the latter. And he's also said to be a descendant of someone who's famous for killing a figure called the Serpent King, who is sometimes said to be a serpent or a dragon, in other times is said to be the leader of a false religion. Gondor is said to have been jointly ruled by two brothers, Isildur and Anarion, each of whom built their own city. The names of the two cities mean the Tower of the Rising Moon and the Tower of the Setting Sun. Abyssinia, or Ethiopia, was historically jointly ruled by two brothers, each of whom had their own capital city, and they changed their names to names meaning he who illuminates and he who brings the dawn. Muirling believes that the Istari, or the wizards in Lord of the Rings, might be inspired by the saints of the Abyssinian Orthodox Church, especially a group called the Nine Saints, who are sort of particularly important in Ethiopian folklore. One of these saints is said to have played a role in restoring the true line of kings. Obviously, Gandalf has an important role in restoring Aragorn to his throne. So there it is. There are several parallels, but of course it could just be a series of coincidences. Let me know what you think, and I hope that I will see you again next time.